The Guardian, The Observer, Time Out magazine as the 6th most beautiful vineyard in Europe, and as the #1 most beautiful vineyard in Europe to hold your wedding at, would you believe? So we were very pleased with those recognitions. The vineyard itself goes up to the far trees you see right up in the corner up there above that tractor. Then we go across to those trees you see in the distance out over there. Then we come across to this tree line you see here, and we follow that tree line down, round, and round behind us. That whole area encompasses the 23,000 vines that we have here. I mentioned the 3 grape varieties at the start, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay. If you look out across the big vineyard area, you might be able to make out a slightly dull grey stripe in the middle there. That's the Pinot Meunier. It has a slightly hairy leaf, which gives it a slight sort of hint of grey from a distance. On the far side of that is Pinot Noir, and on the near side is Chardonnay. This vineyard we're in here is mostly Chardonnay, but these first few rows actually are Pinot Noir. So these bunches of grapes, as they bulk up, will actually turn a burgundy red colour, which is typical of mostly of the Pinot grape, as through a process known as veraison, which happens in September. So if you were to come back here in middle to late September, this would be burgundy bunches of grapes. We don't have so many grapes here because the vines don't particularly like the shade from the buildings and the trees, but there's much more obviously out in the vineyard. So this vineyard, mostly Chardonnay, a bit of Pinot Noir, more Pinot Noir down here, with some Meunier on the wings, the eagle-eyed might be able to see, and then more Pinot Noir in the vineyards further around behind us over there. But I see, out of the corner of my eye, Sarah, who's the one that knows what she's talking about out here, has arrived, so it's beholden on me to shut up and get out of the way, and pass you over, and perhaps I'll catch up with you a little bit later on for a wine tasting. For now, everybody, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. I like to start by saying a very warm welcome to our backyard, and that's because I so appreciate not having to commute to work. So a little bit of my background, I was very lucky. I grew up on a farm and I trained in horticulture, and I loved everything growing, and that was all going really well until my late 20s, and suddenly my career veered right out of that into the construction industry, which I enjoyed very much for a number of years, but it did mean I was travelling about 40,000 miles a year. So the travelling, you know, and I was just yearning to get back to sort of what I call the great outdoors, back to my roots, my farming roots. So here I've arrived, put down 23,000 roots in actual fact. I'm going nowhere fast, put it that way. But yeah, I wake up every morning here, and I absolutely love it here in this little spot, looking after this little piece of Dorset. So the plan for today is we're going to take a little delve into the vineyard year, and often people are very surprised when I say there's never a day that I can say there's nothing to do out here. So we'll see how we're kept busy even all through the winter, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how we make the wine in the traditional champenoise method, and then we're going to do the best bit, the drinking of the wine. So if we start by following me down the path here, which is a bit of a magical path, because I always think at this point you can't tell the lovely oak tree. I'm going to put it.